Well, old friend, we're one video in. Really on a roll. Oh, what now?
I have an idea. What? Are you okay? Are you dying?
Oh, no. No, but that gives me a really good idea. So let me get this straight. You'll play the videos of what I'm talking about, but I have to give you my firstborn.
Yes.
That's a good deal.
Yes, sir.
To me, there is no past or future in my art. If a work of art cannot always live in the present, it must not be considered at all. The art of the Greeks, of the Egyptians, of the great painters who lived in other times, is not an art of the past. Perhaps it is more alive today than it ever was. That's a quote by Pablo Picasso. What? What, do you think I got a real book? Shh. What I can glean is that Mr. Picasso is saying that an artwork's age does not date it more so than its failure to represent its own present time. It even more boldly claims that it shouldn't be given attention if it doesn't live in the present. Now,
what does that mean?
For a work of art to live, does that mean that art can die? And what does that have to do with the things that we see and hear on a daily basis? When I read this quote 7 years ago, I was, as I still am in many ways, obsessed with the past. I loved learning about an ever-mounting history of film and music and whatever else 19-year-old Wes was into. Oh God. These processes and these teachings influenced me and the way I made things. I loved emulating the look and sound of the past. But then I read this, and it made a lot of sense, and that was creating a bit of a duality for me. I thought, was I making dead art? We are a nostalgic people. The past can make us happy, warm, wary, and sad all at once. We seek it out to experience it and remember our history. To inspire us and to teach us, and now more than ever we have an unprecedented access to the relics of our history. Bottom line, nostalgia works. We see it in our film, in our music, in our fashion. We see it in the way that we design in general, and it takes us by storm. It carries the baggage of a generation past and speaks immediately to anyone who can remember the static touch of a CRT television, the hiss of a record, the smell of linseed oil mixing with paint. Is it good? Is it bad? I don't know. Now, specific to art, I want to talk about two different planes of thinking. Two different evolutions that have shaped what we see and hear when experiencing the past. Pablo Picasso mentions the art of the Greeks and the Egyptians. What comes to mind? Do we see the weathered stone? Or do we see the face whose story it tells? And therein lies the divide between the art and the medium. Exploring this further, let's take a look at a few examples. The medium of the painter is the paint and the canvas. The art, well, that's all this. It's what you see. It's what you depict with your painting. It's beautiful out here. I want to express it. I want to show how it makes me feel. I want to, yeah. How did I get here? What the fuck is going on? Shit. The tool or medium being used here is the synthesizer, and the art or the ideas at play are the sounds coming out of it. Take that pop music someplace else to eat with your popcorn. While we're at it, let's take a look at one of the many quote-unquote dead or outdated mediums, the magnetic tape. Now, the medium here is the plastic casing, the magnetic tape itself. And the art, well, That's the music that's recorded onto it. While sometimes it's pretty obvious as to why these things don't persist, let's go ahead and ask the question, how does the death of a medium differ from the death of an art? Is it age? Is it usage? With many physical mediums, the answer is pretty simple. Technology has moved on. A tool or format is surpassed in convenience and innovation to a point where it simply is no longer used, aside from in celebration of its history. You can see our old tape friend here still has a small following. People still collect and use it despite its shortcomings and age. Art, however, lives an odd life. The rise of a concept can attribute itself to embodying the truth of many peoples, and perhaps the fall is the transition to describing no one at all. The growth of a new and fragile idea into one that becomes mass-produced for the sake of its popularity. Now more than ever, this is what happens to new and rising ideas. It's like an obsession fueled by technology. To take what is considered beautiful, original, and even unattainable and make its creation available to everyone. Again, is this good? Is it bad? I honestly think that it's just a natural progression, much like life and death itself.
So what we've established here are two very different life forms that need each other in order to exist. The idea needs its canvas just as much as the canvas was made to support the idea. How do the rise and fall of these two things connect? Well, I want to talk about a concept called the Golden Age, described as a period in a field of endeavor when great tasks were accomplished.
The radio experienced its golden age between the 1920s and 1940s. The golden age of animation from 1928 through the 1960s. Hip-hop from the 1988 through 1994. And golden ages can occur more than once. Consider the Disney Renaissance of the early 90s. The current second golden age of television, brought on by the likes of The Sopranos, The Wire, and other many groundbreaking series.
Look who knows how to work the Wikipedia machine.
Don't tell me secret.
Who's a smart boy?
You hush. I'm all over the map right now, but what about these things makes them part of something bigger than just being so coincidentally good at the same time? It's because a golden age can even more significantly be described as a time when the inherent technology is being innovated, in turn allowing for the art to be innovated as well. Both the art and the media flowering simultaneously. Let's go back to animation. In 1928, the advent of sound in cinema opened up a completely new dimension for film, and in turn for animation. Characters were given a completely new life, memorable voices with the ability to speak and synchronize with musical cues. I'm sure I don't need to express how much of an impact this had. 1960s, television grasped the world, bringing these same animations directly to people's homes, increasing exposure and allowing for things like series continuity. It's a lot of talking. This is a good example of when these two things are in sync and are very much alive. Two peas in a bucket. What happens when we separate the art and the medium? Perhaps we bring up ideas from the past and dress them up in fancy new clothes. I'm willing to bet this is the kind of disconnect that Pablo Picasso was talking about. Consider work that wowed and amazed with its form but said nothing remotely new or important. As a friend so eloquently puts it, a car with a beautiful body but a shit engine. I'm gonna say it. I think this kind of art is dead from the inside. Think about, like, if you made something that's already been made 20 years ago, who's gonna want to see that? I think that old ideas make for empty-feeling art. Inversely, what happens when we send a fresh and relevant message through an old format? Something very alive that wears the skin of something long since past. Sometimes these things are played off as gimmicks, and sometimes these things create entire art revolutions, and it's fucking crazy. How to do that? Does Pablo still doesn't like this? While sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, oddly enough, this is how Pablo created his career. When he said this in 1923, painting was far, far from being a new medium. In fact, it's one of the oldest art forms. He showed that you could still breathe new life into something that is an estimated 40,800 years old. In his case, by rejecting ideals of beauty and by helping establish the avant-garde cubist movement. I won't go into, you get it, whatever. Anyways, my point is that, well, Pablo Picasso was not making art of the past. He was very much making an art form of the past. And did for his whole dang-ass career. This is Pablo we're talking about. Pablo Garbanzo. As I'd like to hope, this show's about your work, the stuff that you want to make. When starting something new, don't be afraid to ask these big questions. Is there a disconnect in my art and medium? Is there unison pushing both my art and medium in new directions simultaneously? Is my art saying something relevant about me or life around me? If I'm using older mediums, is that becoming a gimmick rather than a statement? And is that hindering its success? What art or technology is currently experiencing a golden age? Is my pepperoni pizza done? Originally, when I wrote this scene, I had an actual pizza in my hand. But sometimes in life, you don't have a real pizza at your house. Sorry. Just really happy to be done with this video. Thank you for watching my episode about dead mediums and dead art. I know this was kind of dense, and I mulled over a lot of things at breakneck speed. So join me next time. We're gonna make something with our hands instead of with our brain holes. Actually, please don't go anywhere. I'm very lonely.
I'm the only friend you're ever gonna have.
Ugh. Click here if you like ice cream. Gotcha! Literal clickbait. Just kidding. You can subscribe for future updates to Motion, or you can follow my Facebook page. I put a link in the description. Good day, I love you.